In the quiet moments, when your hands stop trembling, when your heart stops shouting, when your thoughts fall into a cold, disciplined line, that's where victory begins. Because in this world, the one who feels the least decides the most, and the man who cannot be emotionally moved cannot be emotionally controlled. Today, I'll show you exactly how Thomas Shelby wins without emotion, and how you can too. Emotion is a weapon, and someone else will use it against you. You learn this lesson the hard way. Everyone does. No one comes into the world knowing that their own heart is the sharpest blade that can be turned against them. People imagine their enemies will bring guns, lies, and betrayals. But long before any of that reaches you, they study something far more useful: your emotions, your reactions, your weaknesses wrapped in feelings. Thomas Shelby didn't become the man he became through luck or chance or raw ambition. He became him because he learned that every emotion he ever showed became a crack in his armor one others could pry open. So he stopped offering the world anything it could use. No fear, no panic, no hope, no desperation, not even anger, just stillness, just a calculation, just the kind of quiet that unsettles every loud emotional fool who thinks they have you figured out. Because emotion is predictable, and predictable men are easy to break. Show someone what makes you angry, and they'll use it to trap you. Show someone what makes you sad, and they'll use it to weaken you. Show someone what you care about, and they'll use it to own you. That is the nature of the world, not fair, not noble, not gentle. It's strategic. Everything is a move on a board. Every word, every reaction, every flinch is information. And information is ammunition. Thomas Shelby learned it in the trenches. When fear got men killed, when panic made them step into the open fire, hope made them hesitate at the wrong moment. Emotions were luxuries, and luxuries have no place in survival. Not then, and not now. Do you think people hurt you by accident? No. They hurt you because they understood you. They read the look on your face. They heard the shake in your voice. They saw the disappointment in your eyes. They took note of what broke you, what triggered you, what softened you. And once they had the map, they had the power. The only way to win without emotion is to understand what emotion really is. A signal, a door, a moment where you stop thinking and start reacting. That is where enemies live, inside your reactions. Thomas Shelby never removes emotion from his soul. He removes it from the surface, from his voice, from his eyes, from his decisions. He feels, but he never allows feeling to drive. Feeling sits in the back. Strategy holds the wheel. Emotion is fine. Emotion is human. But emotion that escapes your control becomes a weapon someone else gets to swing. And people ask, why do the strongest men look cold? Because warmth tells too much. Because softness invites danger. Because vulnerability offered publicly becomes vulnerability exploited privately. When you become a person who reveals nothing, you become a person no one can manipulate. No one can pressure. No one can predict. No one can control. Emotion gives others power. Silence steals it back. And when Thomas Shelby walks into a room without a flicker of fear, or joy, or anger, or desperation, people don't admire him, they fear him. Because a man without visible emotion is a man without emotional chains. A man whose decisions aren't tangled in impulse. A man who can think when everyone else is drowning in their own storms. That is how you win, not by feeling nothing, but by showing nothing. The moment you stop giving people emotional access to you, the moment your heart stops broadcasting your weaknesses, the world becomes predictable. The attacks become powerless. The manipulations become transparent. And then, finally, you stop losing battles you didn't even know you were fighting. Because in the end, the truth is simple. The most dangerous man in any room is the man who feels, but never lets anyone see it. The man who refuses to hand his enemy the one weapon that can destroy him. The man who keeps every emotion locked behind a mind made of iron. That man wins, without noise, without reaction, without emotion. Calm minds make the coldest, smartest decisions. Asterisk, asterisk. People like to believe that decisions are made in moments of passion, that emotion is fire, and fire is strength. But fire blinds more than it burns. And the truth, Thomas Shelby learned early, is simple. The calm mind is the superior mind. Not because it's nicer, or wiser, or more spiritual, but because it's unaffected. Because calmness is clarity. And clarity is the difference between a man who survives a war and a man who becomes part of the ground he falls on. Calmness isn't a natural state. It's a discipline, a weapon, a tool sharpened through suffering, through loss, through years of learning that panic kills faster than bullets, and emotions ruin more plans than enemies ever could. Thomas Shelby didn't rise because he was the strongest man in the room. He rose because he was the calmest, the most strategic, the one man whose thinking didn't crumble when pressure pressed hardest. You see, the world is full of loud people shouting, arguing, reacting, drowning in their own emotions. Loud men make mistakes. Loud men move impulsively. Loud men lose. But a calm man can see everything. He can hear the lies that others speak without noticing. He can read the tension in a voice, the desperation in a gesture, the fear in an enemy's eyes. Silence gives him information. Stillness gives him an advantage. And calmness gives him time. And time is the deadliest weapon of all. When a man is calm, he can examine a situation the way a surgeon studies a wound with precision, not panic. He chooses the right moment to strike, the right moment to hold back, the right moment to let others destroy themselves, while he simply watches, listening to the sound of their downfall. A calm mind doesn't react, it responds. And that difference is the soul of power. Reaction is emotional. Response is strategic. Reaction gives away control. Response takes it back. Thomas Shelby didn't win because he knew more. He won because he missed less. Because emotions fog the mind, but calmness sharpens it like broken glass. In calmness, distractions fall away. In calmness, noise becomes silence. In calmness, the path appears the path everyone else is too blinded to see. When you master calm thinking, people start to fear you without understanding why. They see a man who doesn't flinch, who doesn't waver, who doesn't lose himself in the chaos others drown in. They see a man who can walk through fire and not let the flames touch his mind. And that presence, that control, that composure becomes a threat. You don't need to shout when you're calm. You don't need to prove anything. People feel it, people sense it, people adjust themselves around you. Because calmness is dominance. Quiet dominance. The kind that speaks without speaking, commands without demanding, and wins without noise. The kind that unsettles weaker minds. The kind that makes emotional men reveal themselves. The kind that makes enemies hesitate before acting. And that hesitation is already your victory. The calm mind is a storm contained. A storm that others never see until it's too late. And here is the truth few accept. Calmness is trained, not gifted. You have to endure pressure without breaking. You have to survive moments that would fracture lesser men. You have to face situations where your emotions beg to take over and tell them to sit down. Because every time you remain calm in chaos, you forge a mind others can't manipulate, can't pressure, can't predict. A calm man wins because he plays the long game, while everyone else is reacting to the moment. A calm man wins because he sees openings long before others do. A calm man wins because emotion doesn't dictate his fate, his discipline does. And in the end, the cold truth is this: the calmest man in the room is always the most dangerous. Not because he lacks emotion, but because he controls it. Because he thinks, while others fall apart. Because the mind that stays quiet decides everything. Power belongs to the one who doesn't react. Reactions are expensive. They cost you clarity, control, and most importantly, power. People don't understand this. They think power is loud. They think it's angry. They think it's the man who shouts the most, threatens the hardest, and swings first. But that man is already defeated. Because the moment you react, you reveal, and the one who reveals first is already losing. Thomas Shelby's greatest advantage has never been violence, never been brutality, never been the name of his family. His advantage is simple. He doesn't react, not to insult, not to threats, not to betrayal, not even to lose. He keeps his mind sealed, his face unreadable, his decisions unhurried, and that stillness is a blade sharper than any weapon he carries. People fear what they can't predict. They fear the man who doesn't flinch. They fear the man who absorbs pressure without cracking. Because unpredictability is power, and reaction kills unpredictability. When a man reacts, he becomes transparent. You can see his fears, his insecurities, his limits. You can steer him, push him, trigger him, make him dance without knowing he's dancing. Most people are puppets tied to strings called pride, anger, jealousy, and fear. And anyone who understands their emotions can pull those strings and make them move. But a man who doesn't react, he has no strings, and that terrifies people. When Thomas Shelby stands in a room, silent, observing, unshakable, every enemy becomes nervous. They fill the silence with their own fears. They expose themselves, trying to get a rise out of him. They reveal more in one nervous sentence than they planned to reveal in a lifetime. His lack of reaction becomes a mirror, and people show their true faces in that mirror. This is the secret no one wants to admit. When you stop reacting, people start revealing, and once they reveal, you control the board. Power is not in the man who responds emotionally. Power is in the man who chooses when or if to respond at all. Thomas Shelby built entire empires on that one principle. He lets others show their hands first. He lets their passions, their temper, their foolish impulses tear holes in their own plans. While they are busy reacting to everything, he's quietly observing, calculating, adjusting, preparing. And when the time comes, he moves with precision, one clean decision that ends the whole game. Because the man who reacts loses time. The man who reacts loses perspective. The man who reacts loses the advantage. But the man who waits, the man who watches, the man who lets silence do the work for him, he walks away with everything. This is why emotional men fail. They swing too early. They speak too quickly. They commit too soon. They show too much. They drown in their own noise. But Thomas Shelby moves like a shadow, unfelt, unseen, unreadable, until the moment he chooses to strike. And by then, the outcome is already written. To win in this world, you must understand one thing. Reaction is surrender. It gives someone else the power to dictate your next move. And Thomas Shelby never gives anyone that privilege. He knows that power belongs to the man who can't be rushed, to the man who can't be manipulated, to the man who doesn't let the world pull him like a puppet, to the man who acts from strategy, not emotion. So if you want real power, not the illusion, not the loud version, not the emotional charade, you must learn the same discipline. Don't react. Let others show themselves. Let others lose themselves. Let others destroy themselves. And when they finally fall silent, you take everything. Because in the end, power doesn't belong to the strongest, or the loudest, or the bravest. It belongs to the one who stays still when everyone else is shaking. The one who remains unreadable while others expose themselves. The one who doesn't react, and therefore cannot be controlled. Real strength is staying unmoved, even when the world tries to break you. There comes a moment in every person's life when the world attempts to crush them. Not with fists, not with bullets, but with weight, emotional weight, psychological weight. The kind that doesn't leave bruises on the skin but carves scars into the mind. Most people collapse under that pressure. They break, they cry, they scream. They let the world see the fracture lines spreading through them. But Thomas Shelby didn't become unshakable by avoiding pressure. He became unshakable because he endured it silently. The world tried to break him, and he refused to move. That refusal is what forged him. Not victory, not successful, not power. Control. The control to remain still when storms rage inside you. The control to not show the fear you feel. The control to hold your ground when life pushes harder than you imagined possible. Real strength is not in force. Real strength is not in muscles or money or reputation. Real strength is in the ability to stay standing, internally and externally, when life twists the knife. Most people believe that strength is shown in how loudly you fight. But strength is not loud. Strength is quiet. Strength is the man who hears the worst news of his life and doesn't flinch. Strength is the man who walks through chaos with steady steps. Strength is the man who can walk into the fire and not let the flame show in his eyes. The world thinks it wins when it hurts you. The world thinks it owns you when it knows your weaknesses. But Thomas Shelby learned early, the less you show, the less they can take. Pain can break you only if it's visible. Suffering can control you only if it's expressed. Weakness can be exploited only if it's revealed. That is why the strongest men remain unmoved. Not because they feel nothing, but because feeling nothing would make them less human. No, they feel everything, but they refuse to show it. They refuse to let the world decode them, categorize them, or understand them. When life hits them hardest, they absorb the blow, straighten their shoulders, and keep walking. That is the difference between a man who survives and a man who is shaped. Thomas Shelby had every reason to break. Loss, war, betrayal, guilt, any one of those things would have shattered a lesser man. But he learned something most never understand. Pain is temporary, but how you carry it becomes who you are. So he carried it silently. He carried it with discipline. He carried it without moving, without cracking, without surrendering to the chaos around him. Because when you remain unmoved in the face of pain, something happens. The world begins to fear you. People sense a strength they cannot measure, a resilience they cannot test, a depth they cannot read. And when they cannot understand you, they cannot manipulate you. They cannot weaken you. They cannot defeat you. Remaining unmoved doesn't mean pretending life is easy. It means refusing to give the world the satisfaction of seeing you fall apart. It means mastering the art of internal fortitude, the kind no one sees, but everyone feels. The strongest men don't win because they avoid storms. They win because storms cannot move them. Real strength is calm. Real strength is controlled. Real strength is silent. Real strength is the man who stands still while everything around him shakes. And when you master that discipline, when you can walk through hell without allowing hell to walk through you, then you finally understand what Thomas Shelby learned long ago. The world only breaks the men who let it. The rest become untouchable. The rest become legends. Conclusion: win without emotion. In the end, it's never the loud men who endure. It's never the emotional ones, the impulsive ones, the ones who show every tremor of their heart as if the world will handle it gently. The world is not gentle. It never has been. And Thomas Shelby understood one truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. The man who controls himself controls everything. Emotion is natural, but exposing it is optional. Reaction is instinct, but silence is strategy. Pain is inevitable, but weakness is a choice. When you learn to keep your face still, your voice steady, your mind cold, the world becomes predictable. People reveal themselves. Enemies expose their intentions. Weak men crumble under their own noise. And you walk through it all with the kind of calm that makes people wonder what unbreakable iron lives beneath your skin. Winning without emotion doesn't mean becoming hollow. It means becoming disciplined. It means becoming unreadable. It means refusing to let the world use your heart as leverage. Thomas Shelby is not feared because he is ruthless. He is feared because he is controlled. Because no matter the pressure, no matter the loss, no matter the chaos, he never lets anyone see him slip. That is why he wins. That is why he survives. That is why his name carries weight long after the smoke clears. And if you want to rise in life, in war, in ambition, you must build the same foundation. A silent mind, a steady heart, a face the world cannot decode. Because victory belongs to the man who cannot be moved by emotion. The man who cannot be provoked. The man who does not react, he chooses. Every move, every word, every step. That is how you win without emotion. Quietly, precisely, relentlessly.